What we have done in the last class is nothing but the overcurrent protection relay. Now, for the overcurrent protection relay, we have understood the introduction first. Then, after that, we have understood that what is exactly the overcurrent relay in the previous class, what is the working principle of the same, overcurrent protection, so how it do works actually, what is the diagram for that, that is also we have seen. Then what we have done on the overcurrent relay, operation time, we can actually divide it into two parts. First one, that is the instantaneous overcurrent relay, for which the operation time is not intentionally delayed, but it is a instantaneous. Right? Second one, that is the definite time overcurrent relay. This is also we have done in the last class. The operation time can be defined or operation time can be set once the pickup value do gets crossed. Then the next relay, that is nothing but the inverse time overcurrent relay. So for the inverse time overcurrent relay, that is what we have seen as in the last topic, or this is the topic where we will start today's lecture. This is the instantaneous overcurrent relay characteristic. This is the definite time overcurrent relay characteristic. And this is the inverse time overcurrent relay characteristic. I guess we have completed up till this slide in the last class. And we were about to start from this particular topic, right? The, the classification of the inverse time relay. Now, before going into the depth of this particular one, हम लोग थोड़ा सा एक इसका रिवीजन कर लेते हैं. That if we say that inverse time over current relay, what does that means? Is that the operation time will be in the inverse compared to the amount of fault current. Right? If I do say that my value of fault current is I of f, and for this I of f, if the operation time is t, then for both of this, we can say somewhat like this. These two are going in the inverse proportion. If we do put the proportionality, it will be 1 upon t. So as soon as the amount of current increases, the time of operation will get decrease. And the same is represented over here in the inverse time characteristic graph. We have taken the time on the y-axis and we have taken the current on the x-axis. So what we can see, for up till certain point, up till this point, or let's say for this portion of the amount of current, let's say over here we are having the value 0 ampere and over here we are having the value 10 ampere. So up till 10 ampere, if the current is in between 0 ampere to 10 ampere, the relay will not give any kind of tripping signal, as the time of operation over here is nothing but the going towards the infinity. As the current's value do increases from the 10 ampere, let's say it is somewhere over here or it is somewhere over here. So for the starting period of the time, the amount of time operation will be somewhat larger, right? And as we do increase the amount of current, see, as we are going away from this time period. That means we do increase the amount of current, and as we do increase the amount of current, the time of operation of the relay will get decreased, right? And that is actually what we want, right? If the value of current increases, the time of operation should decrease, and that is why this particular one is known as the inverse time over current protection kind of rule. Now, we are not going into the depth of all of this point as we have done in the last class. But anyways, again the inverse time characteristic, or let's say this particular characteristic of the inverseness, where what we do say, the time of operation is inversely proportional to the amount of fault current, or instead of this you can say the fault current. For this particular fault current, the time will be in the inverse. See, both of these things are one and same. There is no difference in between these two, right? So, for this particular relationship, we have put over here the proportionality sign, right? What we have put it over here in between these two, that is nothing but the proportionality sign. Now, this proportionality can be replaced by a constant if you want to equate them. If I want to write down somewhat like this, T is nothing but equals to, if we want to put the equal sign, then we are supposed to replace the proportionality with the proportionality constant. Let's say the constant is for the time being, it is x. So T is equals to x multiplied by 1 upon I, right? Now for this particular value of x, if we change the value of x accordingly, the inversionality over here, or let's say the inverseness in between the time and current will get differ, right? If the value of x is, let's say, nearer to the 1, then the inversionality or inverseness of in between the t and I will be simple, right? If we are increasing the value of value of x from 1 to 2, then definitely for the higher amount of the current, the time will be higher. Ultimately, do understand what we are doing over here. If we are saying t is equals to, for the first case, we are considering the value of x is equals to 1. So we'll get 1 divided by I. In the next case, we are considering time t is equals to, we are taking the value of x that is equals to 2, and hence we will get the value of t is equals to 2 divided by I. Let's say we are calling this as the time t and we are calling this as the time t dash. So obviously we can, according to our observation over here, this is the 1, value 1 divided by I, and over here we are having the value 2, so 2 divided by I. Of course we can write down that t dash is greater than the value t, right? So this proportionality constant x do plays a major role in deciding the significance of the inverseness of the inverse over current rate. So if you want the more inverseness, if you want the more inverseness, then the value of x should be according to that, right? And according to this, the inverse time over current relay can be again classified into the three different categories. First one is a standard or normal inverse over current relay. Second one is, that is the extremely inverse type of over current relay. Over here we can see the graph for all of three. So what this graph particularly shows is somewhat like this. If you can zoom into this portion of the screen where we have shown the graph, what actually you can see is somewhat like this. There are three different lines. First one, that is the green, second one that is with the pink, and third one that is with the red signs, right? Now what we can observe over here is that for the red line, this is having the slope that is getting flatter around over here, right? Around let's say key this particular point 2, right? Same way for the pink one, if we do observe, that is getting flattened over here at this particular point of time, and for the green one, that is getting flatter over here much lower than this two. Accordingly, these three graphs are known as in the first graph, which is getting flatter much sooner, that is called as in the standard inverse type of overcurrent relay graph. Second one, that is the pink line, that is called as in the very inverse kind of overcurrent relays graph. And third one, which is getting settled very low, that is called as in the extremely inverse overcurrent kind of relays graph. Now, why is it so? See, trying to understand that for the standard inverse, the inverseness is not that much, right? As much as fast as your current do increases. Let me give you certain examples, or let's draw something over here so that you can understand, right? We are considering the same points. Let's say key over here, let's say for the time being we are having first current I1 over here, second current we are considering I2 over here. Now let's check the difference in between these three graphs. So if I'm extending this value I on the graph, what I can see is that the red graph will give the operation time somewhat over here. The pink graph will give the operating time somewhat over here, and the green graph will give us this operating point somewhat over here. Right? Now, for the just behind line to this, if we are considering the value, right? See, the red line will give us the time of operation somewhat over here, the pink one somewhat over here, and the green one is also over here, right? So the red graph get dropped by this much amount of value, the pink lined graph is dropped by this much amount of value, where the green one dropped by this much amount. So what we can see, the difference in the operation time is extremely, that is getting differed by extreme amount with this particular green graph, right? And because of that, what we can say, that inverseness, that means to get decrease in the amount of time with the increase in the amount of current, that is at the extreme level for the green graph, and that is for the lowest level for the red graph, where the pink graph is in between the red and green graph. Let me show you one more characteristic for the same, so that you can understand that in much better way. So this is the characteristic. So this is what we do have as in the characteristic. Pay attention very closely over here. I'm showing the red line for the IDMT, or let's say standard inverse definite time kind of relay. So this graph comes like this. Goes somewhat like inverse. We are considering this. Second graph, as we have seen in this previous example, we are considering the same color codes. The second graph is for the very inverse kind of characteristic. And the third graph is for extremely inverse kind of characteristic. Now, let's check out the difference in between this three. Right? So we are considering for the first time, we are considering the amount of current that is equals to 1. So for amount of current 1, can you see that for all of this graph are not at all going to give the trip command, because this particular point is going towards the infinity. Let me take another pen. So this graph is going towards the infinity. So none of this graph, either it is a IDMT or let's say the standard inverse kind of relay, either it is a very inverse, either it is extremely inverse, none of these particular graphs are going to give the operating time. Let's say we are considering the second value of current, that is equals to 2. For this current, see, the IDMT kind of graph is giving the value somewhat over here, right, around the value 9. The second graph, which is the extremely inverse, that will give the value somewhat over here around the value 12 and 15, in between 12 and 15, where the extremely inverse kind of graph will give us the value somewhat nearer to the 24, right? You got this? For the value 2, see, I am writing down over here. For the value 2, this is the time t2, this is the time t2 dash. We are considering dash for the very inverse. We are considering the single dash for the very inverse, and time t2 for extremely inverse, we are considering the double dash. So this is nothing but the t2 double dash. Right? Now considering the next point, that is the third point, or value 3. For this value 3, check the difference in the points. Right? The standard inverse kind of graph is going the value, or will give us the value around the 6. The pink one, or let's say the very inverse, will also give the value around 6, where the extremely inverse give us the value around somewhat here. So see the difference. This is the time t3 over here around like 6. This is the time t3 dash somewhat over here, and this is the value t3 double dash somewhat over here. So see the difference. See, time t2 has traveled to time t3. So that is only this much difference. For t3 dash and t2 dash, the difference in between the times is somewhat like this much. And for t2 double dash and t3 double dash, the difference is a huge. And accordingly, what we can say, the time t, time t dash, and time t double dash. So we are considering the values for first one, that is for the IDMT, second one, that is for the very inverse, and third one, that is for the extremely inverse. So time t is normally proportional to the value of current I, where compared to this, time t2 dash is much largely inversely proportional to value I, right? And T2 double dash is much largely compared to both of this, it is much largely compared to both of this inversely proportional. So as the amount of current increased from the value 2 to 3, the amount of change in the time, the difference of in between the time for the 2 and 3, the T is getting the least amount of difference, where T dash is getting somewhat middle amount of difference, where T double dash is getting the highest amount of difference in between these two times. I mean T2 double dash and T3 double dash, right? And hence we can say the third characteristic, which do represented by T double dash, is having the extremely inverse characteristic. The second one, or the middle one, is having the very inverse kind of characteristic, where the normal time t is having the standard inverse characteristic, right? So this is the classification for the inverse time over current kind of relay. So let's go ahead with this. So according to your syllabus, if we do look at these points, see, this is the definite time over current kind of relays characteristic. This is from your book, which I have provided to you guys. It simply shows somewhat like this. And on the y-axis we are having the operating time, on the x-axis we are having the current, or let's say value of current. You can have the plug setting over here, as well as you can have the time setting. What that means is that you can change the value of pickup. Either you want to get your pickup value around like 10 amperes, or either you want to have your pickup value around, let's say, 100 amperes. That you can choose with this plug setting. As well as once the value of current is passing this plug value or plug setting, after that, how much time you want to sit down, or how much time you want to get delay in the operation, that you can set by this time setting. Right? So this is the definite time over current relay, that after the definite time you will get the operation. Same way for the inverse time over current relay, the standard inverse over current relay is also known as the inverse definite minimum time kind of over current relay. In short, we can call this as in the IDMT relay. The full form of this IDMT is nothing but the inverse definite minimum time over current relay. Now, what does this means by the inverse definite minimum time? These four terminologies are nothing but the different. Let's try and understand. For this IDMT kind of graph, which you can see over here, for this IDMT kind of graph, what you can see is that for the prior values, it follows the inverseness rule. Once this inverseness do gets over, it do settles down. See, from this point onwards, it is nothing but a definite time. There is no change in the operation time, or let's say there is a little bit or minimum change in the operation time. Where for the all previous values, let's say up to this point, for all these previous values, or all of this previous values, it follows the inverseness rule. And that's why this name it is given to this particular graph is nothing but the inverse definite, that for the starting portion it follows the inverse rules, and for the end portion it follows the definite and the minimum amount of time which is required for the operation. And hence we are having this name inverse definite minimum time over current value, the IDMT over current value. With these lines over here, this is possibly the most widely used characteristic. So keep this in mind. This is the most widely used characteristic. The characteristic is inverse in the initial part, that is what we have discussed, that in the starting time or in the initial part, the characteristic is inverse, which tends to a definite minimum operating time as the current becomes very high. This is also we have discussed that at the end of the graph or where the current gets extremely high, it tends towards the definite minimum operating time. Right? The reason for operating time becoming definite minimum at high values of the current is that in the electromechanical relays, the flux saturates at the high values. Now, this is somewhat deeper concept, but let's try and understand that when we are having any of the electromechanical kind of relay, we basically do have a structure where we do use a electromagnet for a moment, and we are having some another mechanical setup with which we can have the mechanical output. Like one of the greatest example or one of the easiest example for the electromechanical kind of not the relay but electromechanical kind of instrument is nothing but your electricity meter. We are not talking about the new meters which we are using from last 1 decade, but we are talking about the old meters which do have a disc, and that disc do rotates, right? I guess many of you might have seen that kind of energy meter, right? So for that particular energy meter, how the disc rotates is nothing but we are having a setup, or we are having apparatus that are connected in such a fashion that there will be one electromagnet, and the amount of current flowing through that electromagnets do gives the force for this particular disk to rotate itself. Right? And that is the same kind of construction we do use for the IDMT release. And hence, what we do say that at the higher values of the current, the magnetic flux, or let's say the magnetic circuit which we are using inside of that particular instrument, do get saturated. Now, what is the saturation? That means, let me give you a quick example for the saturation. Is that the let's say you are having this some kind of dissolving material. Let's say water, right? So you are adding salt in that water. Up till certain point, the salt will get dissolved in that water. But after one saturation point, the salt will stop dissolving in your water because your water is saturated. So, in the simple words, the water do contain the maximum amount of salt which it can dissolve itself, or which it can contain by in the dissolved form in it. After that, however amount of salt you are adding into the water, that is not going to dissolve, because all the atoms of the water has got attached with the atoms of the salt, or let's say NaCl, and made the bond. After that particular point, there is no atom of the water is available to make the bond with the salt or make the bond with the NaCl, and hence after that particular point, the salt will stop dissolving in the water, right? So same way, the magnetic circuit which we are using inside of this kind of electro mechanical kind of relays or electromechanical kind of instruments do have a magnetic circuit, and this particular magnetic circuit do have the limitation in order to accommodate the maximum amount of flux. It can accommodate the certain amount of flux. After that, though however amount of flux you are giving to that, but it is not going to accept that, or it is not able to accommodate that because of this kind of saturation condition, that every atom of that particular magnetic circuit is carrying certain amount of flux, and beyond this point it is not able to carry some more amount of flux, and this particular point is known as in the saturation point. So at the higher values of the current, though however amount of the high amount of current you are flowing through your coil, though however big amount of the magnetic flux is getting created, but the magnetic circuit is not able to carry that, and hence because of this magnetic circuit, whatever we are having the movement is getting limited to this maximum point, and hence the time is getting defined, or hence the operation time is getting stuck at this one particular point. Like for an example, let's say you are having this kind of magnetic circuit. Let me draw something quickly so that you can understand. Let's say we are having this kind of electromagnet structure. For this electromagnet structure, we are having the gap in between these two, where we are binding a coil on the one half of the limb, right? This is the two different points from which you can enter the amount of current and you can get the current. Right? So you are flowing the amount of current from this particular point, and we are having a one disc, or let's say aluminum disc, in this particular gap, which is centrally pivoted. Let's say it is pivoted in the center somewhat over here. So this particular disc can rotate in this direction. Now let's say we are looking this disc from the top view. The disc will look somewhat like this. This is the whole disc, and this is the centrally pivoted point. At the one fine edge of this disc, we are having this kind of electromagnet, right? This kind of structure, and on this limb, yeah, on this limb, see, this is the structure is nothing but similar over here. So on this limb, we are having this coil, and again back to this. So this portion will be below to this upper portion, and hence we cannot see this, right? So this particular disc can rotate in this direction as the amount of flux, as the amount of flux is getting created because of the flow of current through this coil, and this flux is passing through this particular disc. Now, what is the detailed operation over here? We are not going to discuss that right now. But for the time being, do understand that the disk can rotate because of this flux. Now, as the value of flux do get increases, the amount of speed over here will get increased, right? Now, at one certain fine point, this material is carrying the maximum amount of the flux, and beyond this point, the material is not able to carry any more amount of the flux. And hence, after this point, let's say that for this particular point, we are saying that value of flux is phi dash, and the amount of speed is nothing but, let's say, the point, though whatever amount of flux do you increase from this particular point, this will get leakage flux, or let's say this will not pass through this particular magnetic circuit. And hence, if you are creating the another flux which is having the maximum value phi double dash, or what we can say, the phi double dash is much greater than compared to the phi dash. The speed for the phi double dash will be the same as the s dash, or we can say s double dash is nothing but equals to s dash. Now let's go ahead with this. And the relay operating torque, which is proportional to the square of the flux, does not increase substantially. See, this is what we have discussed. What we are trying to understand is saying that this particular kind of characteristic came in picture because of the limitation of this characteristic, because of the limitation of your definite time over current characteristic. Why it is so? Because the definite time over current relay characteristic does not give us the inverseness, and hence either we are having the 10 ampere of the current, or either we are having the 100 ampere of the current, or either we are having the 200 ampere of the current, the operating time will be the same for all the currents. And as we have discussed in the previous class, that as the amount of current do increases, the amount of damage it can make to the system will also increase. And hence what we want is that as the amount of current do increases, the time of operation should reduce, or time of operation should get decrease. And that is what written over here, right? That such a characteristic came about because of the limitation of the electromechanical technology, right? Next, what it is saying, that ideally we may demand for the operating time be the inverse in the nature throughout the operating range. See what it is saying, that this particular characteristic, the definite minimum time kind of characteristic, this do comes in the picture. ये क्यों होता है? Because we are having this limitation. What is the limitation? That is the saturation point, and that's why this graphs do gets flattened over here in the end points, or where the current do gets high. Ideally, what we do require is nothing but always inverse graph, which will not at all have this kind of portion, but instead of this graph will be inverse in the nature for whole amount of time. Clear? See, this is what it is written over here. You know, see, ideally, what we may demand that the operating time be inverse in the nature throughout the operating range. So it should not get settled down to one particular point, but instead of that, it should have the throughout inverse characteristic. So we are limiting today's lecture till this point. So what is this particular equation? We'll do that.